The Nintendo Switch. Look at it reflecting my my bulletin board. What a cool freaking console. Like, honestly, the idea of it is really neat. This thing came out in 2017, and man, I bought it on launch day with my own money. I think it was like one of the first actual consoles to do that. My handhelds, I started to buy myself like with the, I think it was with the DSi, or the DSi XL rather, which is one of my favorite consoles actually. But yeah, this was the first one I really did that with. And man, you know, I'm glad for this thing. It really put Nintendo back on top in a lot of ways after the Wii U. And I mean, I'm grateful for that. A lot of people seem to really like the Switch. It got some great games. It got some great support. I mean, I don't really have a whole lot of complaints about it. I do, but I don't. Like, really, what can you say about it? It's just a good system. It's a good idea. Taking this thing to MagFest is fun. I don't play it so much at MagFest. And I certainly don't take it with me to a whole lot of places because, I don't know, a little bit nervous about taking this thing and losing it in another state or something, or getting it through airport security, although I am sure they have seen thousands of them. But, like, I don't know. This kind of scares me taking it out like this. And honestly, I just tend to prefer to play it docked. So the big gimmick of the thing, I really have not found all that much use for. You know, the Switch part of it isn't great. And when you take that into account, it's kind of like, man, other than that, it didn't do a whole lot new. We're going to talk about that in a second. The main reason I'm making this video is because the rumor mill has started spinning once again that the Switch here is in its twilight years. And honestly, I think that's true. Thing's been out for almost 7 years now, and that's a pretty long life for a console, even for one this robust and diverse with its capabilities and all that. So yeah, I mean, it's sad to see a console like this go, and really, it just seems like the way they've been pumping out games the last 7 years, that this thing could just kind of go on forever. I mean, after 7 years and a whole bunch of really interesting games and ideas, it does feel that way, doesn't it? We're still missing a couple of franchises. They could put an F-Zero in this thing, an original Donkey Kong. I mean, there's still places to go with it. But, you know, it does feel time to make a successor to the Switch. I think that they've probably learned a lot from this console, and I think that there's a lot of cool ways they could go with it. Now, first thing I'm going to say, of course, is obviously we have no idea what Nintendo does. You know, or what Nintendo is planning. No one thought this was the next step for them. But it is also kind of a progression of the Wii U, certainly an evolution of the Wii and the DS. So, you know, I think whatever comes next will follow from the Switch's example, and I think it's going to capitalize on its strengths. But it has a lot of easy places it could go to make the Switch better. The Switch kind of feels like a prototype for me. Just the whole setup of it. Like, it feels very basic. I think a lot of people really complain about how basic it all is. There's really not a whole lot that sticks out about it once you get into the nitty-gritty of the console. There's a couple of cool things that went on as they went down the line, like the online exclusive icons, whatever the fuck these things are, and all that stuff. But like, yeah, I don't know. The system itself is really weird. Like, and it never did commit to being like a gimmick console like the Wii, which is a little bit strange. I'm glad that it played it more straight than the Wii and the Wii U. But at the same time, it's like it didn't have any gimmick at all. Like, I always forget that it's a touchscreen because like a game can't require you to play the game undocked. So like it can't require you to have a touch screen, right? And similarly, it's like everything depends on the game's working in docked. So, you know, while you can detach the Joy-Cons and stuff, to, to use whatever motion controls, you would have to use for a game. And you can, put the thing down, which is one of my favorite features, the little kickstand that holds the screen up. Like, I love those features, but it never felt like they were prominent enough because it was, it was either dependent on the game being in the dock to be fun, or it was dependent on the game being out of the dock so you could use the touchscreen and having that be fun. So, I don't know. I feel like there's a lot of different ways they could go to improve upon the Switch and do it easily. I could definitely see them doing just like basically an upgraded Switch. I know a lot of people were talking about like a Switch Pro or, the Nintendo DSi or whatever, the 3DS XL, which was a better, or the what is it? No, the new 3DS was a like better version of the 3DS. I could see them doing something like that. Maybe. I mean, I think it is going to be a whole new console and a whole new product because Nintendo is going to want to sell some things. But I do think that the successor to the Switch is going to be similar to the Switch. I don't think they're going to abandon the hybrid format of the Switch, which is a home console and a portable console. I don't think they can do that. I think what they have going with the Switch in that regard is really good. It's an amazing little thing that you can just take this, you can grab it, you can go to a friend's house. All you got to do is plop this down on their dock and you're playing on their TV. Like it's really convenient. It's good for local and online multiplayer. Like, I don't know. It's a really unique system and I think Nintendo isn't going to let that go. I think at this point they've combined their two markets and the handheld portion of the main console is here to stay. I think it would be weird for them to not do something similar to this. It's just I think they're gonna stick. I think they're gonna stick with this, and just try to expand it rather than starting with something completely new and crazy. I think that the successor to the Switch has to be backwards compatible. It's pretty rare that Nintendo doesn't do backwards compatibility. It's only happened a couple of times. The Super Nintendo, the N64, obviously, because at that point cartridges were all changing. The GameCube, because the format again changed, but the Wii was backwards compatible with the not so well selling GameCube. It like went out of its way to be backwards compatible, which was really cool. But like, I don't think anybody bought GameCube games after they got a Wii. Maybe they did. That would be cool. But like, I think Nintendo wants to be backwards compatible. I think the Wii U was backwards compatible with the Wii. They were smart to do that. They had to do that in case for whatever reason you didn't have a Wii. I think the issue is everybody had a Wii. So, and I kind of wonder if that's going to hinder the Switch. But like, I really do think it has to be backwards compatible. There's the Switch library is just too huge. It's too robust. It has too much going for it. And there's a lot of, I'll talk about this later, but there's a lot of series and franchises that are massively popular that are kind of in transition after their entries on the Switch that I think they're just going to need a little bit more time to cook on. And they're going to have the Switch's successor be able to play them to hold players over until then. And I mean, series like Pikmin, all of the Pikmin games are now on Switch. All of the Xenoblade games are now on Switch. There are a couple of franchises that are like this, where just a whole bunch of the games are on Switch or have been remade or remastered for Switch. And I think to abandon that by having the system not be backwards compatible would just be awful. I just think it would be really bad. I think it would be a betrayal of everything the Switch has built, and I don't think they're going to do that. I think with the Wii U, it was a little bit different. The library of games that were essential to the Nintendo fans' library got ported over and could be ported over, with one exception that I may talk about later. I do think that at this point they've really done a really good job building the library of the Switch. They can't just port it. I think a lot of Switch games are made to be kind of timeless. So I really think they're gonna make it backwards compatible, and just it would be unthinkable to lock people out of their Switch libraries and all that stuff. I don't know if there's going to be like a system transfer for games you already own, so you can just kind of play with the new thing, or if the Switch is going to be, you know, compatible with the old one or whatever. I do have kind of an idea about that later that I'll talk about, but like, yeah, I do think it's going to be backwards compatible. I have no idea what the gimmick otherwise is going to be, other than it's going to be a more powerful Switch. I'm not that creative person. I'm sure it is going to have a gimmick. But I don't know. Like, I don't feel like it needs one. I feel like the Switch has its gimmick of being the Switch, and you can take it on the go. I don't know. It just really needs a boost to me. It needs a way to be, you know, more powerful, and do some more things. So I don't know, but I'm sure it will have a gimmick because Nintendo always have a gimmick. If you would have asked me to predict that the Wii successor would be a console version of the DS, I wouldn't have known. I remember thinking the Wii U was actually really cool when they revealed it. Didn't know how, but like it seemed really cool. It seemed like a cool idea. And I think the cool thing is the Switch is the almost perfected version of the Wii U. Cool continuity stuff. So yeah, I think the big flaw of the Switch is just that it has no personality. The physical design is cool. It's iconic. The sliding controllers is awesome. The diverse ways that you can play anywhere and everywhere. Fantastic. Amazing. The console itself has personality. I mean, the logo is a really good amalgamation of what a good summation of what the console is. It looks like it makes, you know, it's got an iconic look to it. You know, it has a lot of personality. But again, this, absolutely not. I think, you know, theming, I think a menu more like PlayStation's that keeps track of things for you. You know, I would love to be able to, you know, hit Y on a game and it shows me the stats for that, my play time and all that stuff. I know you can get to that in the menu somewhere, but I think it would just give the system a whole lot more personality if, you know, if you could see more things about the games. There's no themes. There's just not a whole lot going on here. What I say is they need, at this point, they've established a great infrastructure for a console. What I think they should do now is bring back the social features of the 3DS and Wii U, which I think were the big memorable parts of those consoles. Stuff like Street Pass and Miiverse in some capacity. I know Miiverse was like hard to moderate probably, and sometimes distracting, and I think some games kind of gimmicked with it a little bit too much, and it didn't really like affect gameplay. But I think some games integrated that in-house interactivity amazingly. For those of you that don't know, for all y'all who jumped ship, who jumped on the Splatoon train with 2 or 3, the first game had amazing Miiverse. I know the second game had it too, where you could draw on the undocked Switch, but like that first game, seeing other people's graffiti on Inkopolis and in the skies when it was a Splatfest, totally irreplaceable, completely added to the atmosphere of that game, was super awesome. I would love to see more like that. And even in games like Mario Maker or Super Mario World or whatever, or Mario 3D World or whatever, just seeing people's Miiverse posts talking about the game, it added an element to it. People I can see if you skip them, but a lot of people really found it interesting to stop and like look at what other people had to say in the game. People like that social activity, and they like it to be integrated into the game. And there's nowhere else that's doing it like that. You know what I mean? There's no, PlayStation doesn't do it, Xbox doesn't do it, smartphones don't even really do it. So like, that's a thing. And Street Pass on the Switch would be better than ever. I mean, that would be so cool. Imagine, you know, they could actually have local multiplayer games like that, like, you know, integrated with what's the one, Miitopia would be great. Miitopia was like a big version of Street Pass, but man, I tell you what, this thing with Street Pass would be awesome because so many people have these. The install base is big enough that you could actually build a really cool version of Street Pass off of it and have it be like a cool series of games. And I think that would be awesome. I think the Switch being a more social console would be awesome. Like I get it. Like smartphones are kind of competition in that regard, where it's like, okay, all my, my friends are like that, and here's all these small games I can play while I wait, and I don't know. Smartphones feel like maybe it's pushed Nintendo away from those sorts of little apps or whatever, like Street Pass and whatnot. And maybe they'd be better off on smartphones, but I really don't think so, because Nintendo provides these more rich experience than smartphone games ever do, and their smartphone games even are really in depth. Smartphones do not ever do local multiplayer, and Nintendo does, and I think that they should capitalize on that. I think local multiplayer with the Switch would be amazing, and they should really do more with it. And I don't know. I think it's great. They've already done a great thing that it's easy to sync controllers to, and so you can be in the bathroom of a hotel, you can plop this boy down, kickstand it out, everybody's got a Joy-Con, you can go, or at a restaurant, or just anywhere, I mean, I think that's great. There was some early trailers for the Switch where they showed like multiple Switches working in tandem to build levels and like design things. And I would like to see more of that. I can't really think of any games that actually use that, except for like those early Mario parties or whatever weirdness that was. So I would like to see something more like that, where it's like you can use multiple Switches and multiple people local to to do things. You could host things between different Switches in a similar area, almost like a D&D sort of thing, where everybody's got their own screen, so you can have your stats of your character on easy display, and like everybody's in it together. Like, I mean, that would be really cool. I think that would be just an awesome way to go with the system. Would love it to be more social. That said, I would love it to have more online features as well. Would love it to be a little bit more powerful with the online. I would love to see them have more online co-op games for games that should have them. I forget which game it was, but I was like, why does that not have online co-op? I mean, it took them till Mario Party Superstars to have online for that. Let me see if I can figure out what game I was thinking of when I was like, that should have online co-op, and it doesn't, and I feel stupid. Oh, the Kirby games that come out should have online. I mean, I just like anything with multiplayer should have it, and I think that other games should have better online features. I'm talking primarily about improving the online experience as well. There's that rollback netcode, and I know Nintendo hates it because people have modded Smash with it, but I really think that it would be a great idea for them to implement that and make the online experience way smoother, especially because you can take the Switch wherever you are. So no matter what internet you're on, it should be nice and smooth as butter and be a really good experience, which, should happen in 2023, especially if they want to make this a more social, the hell's that locust, console. I think it would be great. I think it would be a great idea. Obviously, more graphical power wouldn't hurt. I would love to see a console that can produce really smooth graphics, though. I would love to see it be easy to develop things that look good on the Switch. And what I mean by that is, like, the console itself makes something like Pokemon Sword and Shield or Scarlet and Violet kind of impossible, right? Like, I want to see it be a game where it's like no one is inclined to make a game that looks like Three Houses and be okay with it. Three Houses is a cool game. It looks kind of awful. Everything is aliased terribly, and it's hard, like, it's hard to look at it as anything other than having difficulty developing for the system. Granted, the team at the time was coming off of like a bunch of years of doing DS and 3DS games instead of console games, but like you can tell that by Engage they got the hang of it more, because Engage is beautiful. It runs, it's so smooth looking, the animations are great. It would just be it's really nice. I would love for Nintendo to capitalize on that. I don't think they need ray tracing and the most realistic graphics and all this, all this bloody crap and all that. I just would love for them to develop a way to make their style of games look way smoother. I would love to see games like the Xenoblade games look smooth as heck. That's another good example because 2 looked rough in a lot of places. And 3 improved upon that. It looks way smoother. But I look at Xenoblade 3 and I'm like, you know what? It could look even better. It could look even smoother. And that's what I want. Like, Nintendo knows how to make games that capitalize on the, you know, that sort of overcome the weaknesses of the system and make anything look good on it. But I would love to see them go one step further with that and make it easier for their second party developers to make things that look as great as the best things that are on the console. And Xenoblade 3 doesn't look bad. It's just like you can tell it's stylized by choice and bound by some limitations that other modern consoles don't have. So I would love for it to be able to like sort of be able to push the envelope in that way, but still be really easy to develop for us so that, these developers can really cram things in there. So I think that would be great. Obviously, it's going to have more graphical power. I think that's a given with any console. I know Nintendo's probably not going to focus on it, but it's obviously a thing that we would like to see. I do feel like, and this is going to get into the gimmick portion of it, I do feel like Nintendo might start integrating more motion control options back into their games again. I don't think we're going to have another Wii, but they've had a good number of years to develop the craft, and they didn't totally abandon the idea with the Switch. I think it'd be good to revisit it sometime, and I think it would be good. I think Nintendo has learned to use it in moderation, but I do think that it's a good time for them to codify motion controls in game. The ones on the Wii were shaky, inaccurate. Imagine if they could improve those and make them more accurate and less clunky to use. I think they can do it, right? I think they could do it. Stuff like gyro-assisted aiming in shooter games is like sublime. I hated that this generation did not have that as much as it should have. Because like, man, that shit is, once you've played RE4 on the Wii, you can't go back. I have, because I have no choice, but like, oh my god, RE4 remake on a Switch successor with motion controls, I would die in a bathtub full of chocolate, essentially, because that would just be the perfect, most sublime gaming experience ever. They can't do it because that would be too powerful. Like, absolutely, 100%. You can tell it's getting dark because it's like my darkness is showing. So yeah, I mean, I wouldn't want them to commit to it fully. I think they would give the player options, but it'd definitely be nice to have it again. I think VR is a big thing that's happening in gaming right now. It hasn't exploded the way I think VR developers have wanted it to. I think there's still some silliness going on where it's a bunch of people holding funky spoons. And I don't know. I just got a feeling that there's a new 3DS on the horizon, a new 3DS situation, I should say, on the horizon, where like Nintendo made 3D this weirdly accessible thing where you can have 3D without glasses with the flip of a switch. I know it messed with a lot of people, but it really codified the idea that 3D could be good, right? I kind of feel like they're going to do that again, but with motion controls. I think that, one cool thing that they could do would come up with a motion control system so robust that everybody wants to copy it, and it actually improves VR without Nintendo having to go into VR. Like, imagine that. That feels like a very Nintendo thing to do. Would be like, okay, we don't want to make the Nintendo VR, because remember Labo? No one does. We don't want to make the Nintendo VR, but we're going to make everybody hate the fact that we're going to make those VR people angry that they don't have our technology. And I really do think that that's how it's going to work. I would be hopeful. I would be into doing that. I think motion controls are good and could be good if they were good. Like, again, I don't want them to totally commit to it, but I think it would be a really cool gimmick if they were able to master it. But that said, on gimmicks, this is the first console developed sans Iwata. So honestly, I think that there's the potential that this console could be Nintendo's first to really strive to be in competition with the market. I don't think, I don't know that they would want to compete with PS5 and Xbox Series, whatever. Um, but they might. They might go in that direction. It feels like all of the crazy, wacky Nintendo hijinks and being different happened under Iwata. Um, so it's kind of interesting to think that, the Switch was his last mark, right? Development on it had probably already begun before his death. Maybe he was the one who had the idea or supported the idea. We don't know exactly what his involvement in the Switch was, but this is the first time a console has been developed without his direct influence. And I don't think Shintaro Furukawa, the guy who is the president of Nintendo, who I thought was supposed to be like an interim president while they figured shit out, he feels more like a company man to me. And I have a feeling he might go more in line with current gaming trends. I hope they don't, but I think that also supports the idea that the next console is going to be a souped up Switch instead of something completely different and off the wall like Nintendo usually does. I think they might try to play it a little bit more safe this console generation. But as I've said and delineated, they have a lot of room to do things that are similar but different. Improving motion controls, doing better, smoother graphics, having a more social console that uses the best of all their previous consoles. All that stuff would be great, so I think that's kind of how I feel like that's the direction they'll take. But I don't know. I've been surprised before. So what about the games? It's always exciting when a new console happens because it's like, okay, we're starting fresh. What could happen? What could we be getting? We're going to get new games in popular series on more powerful hardware. That's always exciting. So yeah, something I've been thinking about how all this is going to work. They said the Switch 2, the rumors say the Switch 2 will launch holiday 2024. So that's an interesting date. We've still got a whole year. We've kind of got a lot of small things coming out between now and then for the old Switch. We've got the Peach game, we've got the Dark Moon remake, we've got the DLC for Pokemon. So we've got a few things peppered in there. I think a couple other smaller games and remakes are probably in the works, and we'll see those before holiday 2024. I think they're just going to keep us occupied until then. The thought I had was if it launches in holiday 2024, we'll probably get a new Pokemon game with that. We're doing DLC this year, so next year it could be like a Let's Go or a Legends or a remake. I don't really want it to be any of those things. I would be cool with them taking a break, but I think we'll probably see something like Let's Go. But I don't think it would be a Switch successor exclusive. Pokemon knows where its bread is buttered. It likes to stay on the console it's on. So I think it would be a release that would be better on the Switch successor, but still releases on the Switch. That's the other thing. I think the Switch successor will have a way to improve Switch games in some capacity, whether it's making them run smoother or look better or whatever, or have vague enhancements or whatever. So I think that would be kind of cool. But I think Pokemon next year will be a holiday release, and it will try to sell the Switch 2 with some special features or something, maybe if you buy it on that. But no, I think it'll come out for Switch just fine because Pokemon always does that. Honestly, I think Switch titles will hold over the staple franchises until they're ready. Those once-a-console franchises that really bring in the people and get people excited for the console generation and all that stuff. I don't think we'll see a new Mario Kart or Smash Brothers right away because Ultimate and 8DX plus Booster Course Pass are such strong entries in those franchises. How do you even top Smash Brothers Ultimate with its crazy lineup of characters? How do you top Mario Kart 8 Deluxe with 96 courses, selling like hotcakes, still at it after all this time? I think at this point, those franchises need to reinvent themselves. Um, and I think it's going to take time to do that. And I think if these systems are backwards compatible, I think Nintendo's just going to be like, okay, well, here they are. The Booster Course Pass in particular for Mario Kart definitely feels like, okay, we're going to tide you over for a little bit with this stuff. It's something that'll help fill out 2023. Maybe they'll do another Booster Course Pass in 2024 to pass the time and to say, hey, look, we built the biggest Mario game ever. It's going to be some time before the next one. Or they'll put out an F-Zero one early into the Switch successor's life cycle to have a racing game. I don't fucking know. That would be cool, but again, I think the idea is we've built this 100-course Mario Kart game with all these characters and all these things that fans love. You can play it on the new Switch with our new netcode and all that shit. So it's we're all good here, whatevs. And then I think series like Splatoon and Xenoblade, they have the threes, Splatoon 3 and Xenoblade 3 to hold people over. I don't think we're gonna see anything early on from them. I think Xenoblade might get their X remake on the Switch successor instead of a new Switch game. I think that based on certain things in that franchise, this is a good time for an X remake. Some people have floated the idea of a Xenosaga remake, which would be interesting. But honestly, I would love a Xenoblade X remake. I think it would be great if they're going for a more social concept. Xenoblade X has the potential to be like a Xenoblade MMO, and I think if they reworked the game and made it more social and had more people running in and out and more players working together and stuff like that, they could have something really cool and unique on their hands with the Xenoblade title on it. So I kind of wonder if maybe that's why they're not doing it on the Switch. And I kind of feel like maybe that's right. Maybe they are saving it. I think just because the Xenoblade saga, the Xenoblade franchise at this point, feels like it's going for a big interconnected universe. X is going to be back at some point. I think it would be a great thing to put it on the successor to the Switch. It's ready to go. It tides fans over until whatever they're doing next with the series is ready, which I hope they take their time on because holy shit, Monolith was so prolific on the Switch. It was not even funny. I think we'll get a 3D Mario early on in the console's life. Odyssey was in 2017. The only thing they seem to be developing for Mario right now are side projects like the Peach game and the Mario RPG remake. The Mario Wonder is coming up in October, but that's a 2D Mario, and it'll be a year old by the time the Switch 2 supposedly comes out. So I don't know if we will launch with a 3D Mario. We know it ain't going to be a Zelda, so I think it's entirely possible that we will launch with a 3D Mario. Whatever's coming after Odyssey. I think that's a big thing. I also think that Metroid Prime 4 is definitely for the next console. I think that is a great idea because that the Metroid Prime team, Retro, will push the new system to its limits already, or at least show people what they can do with it. And I think that is going to be excellent. I think it'll be an excellent way to show off the system. I don't know if it will be a launch title. I think it'll be very on in the system's life cycle. It's been in development for such a long time. I feel like it'll be early on, and I feel like it would be a great thing to launch alongside a Mario game to say, hey, look, we've got this really cool first-person shooter on this game, as well as this very colorful Mario platform that we all love. I think as an early RPG entry, we're going to get a Fire Emblem title pretty early on. Probably not launch, probably a couple months out. Engage was done well before it released, which means Intelligent has to have been doing something, and I think that something is probably a new Fire Emblem game, and I think it's going to be an early RPG for the system because they're going to want an RPG. Xenoblade was that for the Switch, surprisingly, but I think it's going to be Fire Emblem this time because at that point it'll be well over a year since we got Engage. And I think we'll be fit to be married to a new Fire Emblem by then. Haha. I feel like this would be a good time for a new Donkey Kong game. I don't know who will develop because Retro is working on Metroid Prime 4, but I think it would be a good time for it. That's about it. I think that Animal Crossing is going to get a bigger release on the successor to the Switch. I can't help but feel like New Horizons had some issues, and there were some places where it kind of held back, even though it's a massive game. But I think the big thing is Nintendo underestimated how massively popular this game would be. It was a perfect storm, obviously, that it came out right as the pandemic hit and everybody was playing it. But I think they kind of, with that knowledge in mind now, I think they're definitely going to, give the Animal Crossing team carte blanche to go big or go home. I think that they'll want to introduce a system of updates and all that will keep the game fresh throughout the console's life cycle. I think they'll want to have it be a Smash or Mario Kart like fixture on a new system where it's a game that they can release and it will constantly get new updates that will have people coming back to it. And I think that's probably the format that Animal Crossing should stick to. I think it could be a system seller. I really do think that a sequel to Animal Crossing that delivers on the promise that New Horizons gave us, I think it could be a big system seller. I think it really could be a potential Tears of the Kingdom situation where like everybody showed how creative they were with New Horizons. I think that Nintendo will take note and they can make something really cool out of Animal Crossing in that same way. Speaking of Tears of the Kingdom, Zelda. I think at this point Nintendo is going to look at going in a new direction with Zelda. It's just natural for the series. I think one of the things they might do early on in the Switch successor's life cycle is I think they'll put out like a deluxe edition of Tears of the Kingdom on the new console with whatever content they add being DLC for the Switch that you can download. It's not a brand new game. It'll be better on the Switch successor, but it'll also have to work for the Switch too. And I think they'll put that out probably early 2024 or early, well, I don't know. DLC probably doesn't take, they'll have a year and a half on it by then, over that probably. I don't know. It might be. I think it'll be either a launch title or close to launch title. I mean, that would be a stacked, really like launch window for the Switch if they had Tears of the Kingdom Deluxe, Mario 3D platformer, and Metroid Prime all in a bundle with Fire Emblem well on the way. That'd be a hell of a lineup. But I think it's possible. I think they'd want to come out swinging with this Switch successor, to be honest. So, I think after that though, they'll be looking to take this series in new directions again and sitting back and thinking, okay, well, what do we, how can we update the Zelda games at this point? I would like them to go back to more traditional 3D styles, but I don't think that's going to happen. That said, I do hope we get Twilight Princess and Wind Waker HD ported to the new console. I think that too would also be a good way to hold over Zelda fans until this transformation takes place. As Zelda games go, they take a long time to develop, so I don't think we would see it anytime early on, and I think they would need games like that to keep the Zelda train rolling so people remember what the hell it is. Speaking of old games, I think we will get more of them on the Switch. If it's backwards compatible, then that already gives us access to a decent number of GameCube and Wii games. The NSO, I think, is planned to continue on past the Switch. It should come back, and I can only see them adding to it. I can't imagine them really taking away or starting over with it. That would be awful. That being said, with the SNES and the NES and the N64 eras on lock, it's about time they started exploring, that later era with the GameCube, reimagining DS and Wii games to work on a new system, which I think if they diversify the control scheme, they certainly could do. Oh, one thing I didn't mention back in the gameplay and controller section, I would love for them to have a way for you to use a touchscreen while the system is docked. Whether that be have another smaller controller with the screen on it, or using like an iPhone or a smartphone as a controller for a touchscreen, so you can have touchscreen games and do DS games that way. That would be awesome. I think that might be another thing that's a thing. If there's a lot of interconsole activity, it might behoove them to do like almost like a dual Switch sort of thing, where they sell like two of these in a box, and one of them is like a controller and the other one is used for other things. I don't know. But I think it would make for a great time to bring back other games from that era. It's time. They're starting to bring back some GameCube and Wii games, but we need more. We need more of them, and quick, please. Thank you. Oh my God. So yeah, I definitely think that with the classic games out of the way, they have way more incentive to go for those games that they haven't already tackled. That's my hope. I could see them just not doing it too, because they're Nintendo, and why would they ever give a fuck about Fire Emblem Path of Radiance and Mario Galaxy 2 and all those sorts of things. I think starting with Luigi's Mansion 2, we could see 3DS games become available in reworked forms, just like I said. Please, dear God, let Kid Icarus be one of them. Please, I'm begging you. I need this franchise to come back. I really like Kid Icarus, and I think Uprising at least needs a port on a modern console. Come on, guys. You can't have revived that fucking franchise to only to ditch it. It's been 10 years. It's been 10 years. Come on. But yeah, I think Nintendo is sitting really high right now, so I really don't know what they could do to improve things on a Switch successor to make it more appealing to other developers or whatever. Their game lineup has already been great, barring a few franchises, notable abstinence like Donkey Kong, Star Fox, F-Zero, stuff like that. The kind of like lesser franchises that I think could get new entries. I don't know. I feel like Star Fox is a franchise at this point they should just try to license out to another development studio to see what happens. They kind of already did that with the Starlink thing, and maybe they'll capitalize on that. They kind of did that with Metroid, where they let Mercury Steam do the remake for Samus Returns, and then we're like, okay, make Dread, and then they made Dread, and it was great, and it sold pretty well too. So I would hope they do that with franchises like Star Fox especially. F-Zero I'm not too fussed about personally, because like they're right, Mario Kart is kind of the superior racing game on the platform. I could see people wanting maybe a more technical racing game, but I don't know. I feel like Star Fox is far more essential in that way, because it definitely fills that niche. But yeah, I don't think Nintendo feels like they're missing out on the big AAA titles. It's just not their vibe. I'm surprised they have shown support for things like Resident Evil Village on Switch. That's surprising. But damn, I would love to not have to buy a PS5 for Resident Evil. That'd be pretty great. So I don't think they're going to be bending over backwards for that third-party support. Naturally, the system should be stronger and be at least comparable with the PS4 and Xbox One. Hopefully, they take it a step further and have it be comparable to almost on the level of PS5 and Xbox Series S. They probably won't, but if they can get those games workable, I think that would be great. I think they like their relationship with third-party developers like Square right now. They're getting those B-tier RPGs that are at home on Nintendo systems anyway. I don't think they're like, pissing themselves that they're not getting Elden Ring and Starfield and Final Fantasy 16 and all that shit. So I don't know. I don't see much changing there, and I think that's where they're at with that. But yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot of potential for Switch 2. I really do think they could just beef up the console a little bit and have a really big hit on their hands. Have it do a few new things. Have it, I think advancing motion controls will expand the Switch audience further. Maybe bring back some people that skipped over the Wii U and Switch from the Wii. Have a little bit more casual experiences like that. I don't know. Who do you appeal to when the Switch is one of the best-selling consoles of all time? How do you follow that up? last time Nintendo said with the Wii U. But I think it's far too soon for them to pull another Wii U and do something stupid. But it could happen. So, I mean, Nintendo's history with consoles is definitely a mixed bag, because I know the N64 and the GameCube lost their eras hard. The Wii U was a big dump, and I just, I want to see Nintendo continue to stay on top like they have with the Switch, but I want them to, honestly, they could stay the course and just, do a couple things, and I think it would work. But I think there's a lot of room to perfect the things that they've been building up to throughout their history at this point, and I would love to see that happen. I would love to see more of their history get preserved on a Switch successor, make those older games available, and run better than ever, but we'll see. Whatever happens, I just hope they continue to build on what the Switch does and can do, and I think if they do that, it'll be great. So that's my predictions and desires for the Switch 2. Tell me in the comments what you would like to see in Nintendo's next console, or what games you might be excited for the next generation of, and we'll talk more about it in the future. Thanks for watching, I guess. I don't know how to end these things.